What's up, my witches? Today I am back with another speed watercolor art thing. This time is a much more complicated picture, and it is based on my D&D group. This little guy up front with the pointy ears and the cute little face is my character, cause shush, because I said so. He's an adorable little character, and this picture was a little complicated for me to paint, just because of how many colors, and it ended up feeling a bit more like color pencil or marker when I was done with it. And focusing issues just slightly in the beginning. A lot of the times when I was painting this, mind you, we're in for a much longer haul than the last video, because this one took me, 3-4 days to do, maybe 5 days. I think it was a total of 3 hours to pencil and ink it in, and then another 6 hours of watercoloring, or at least 6 hours of video for watercoloring. I did lose a little bit of the footage. And you'll notice I skipped ahead right here because I accidentally painted his hair off camera. I wasn't paying attention to where the camera was filming, and that's my bad. And it happens a few times, so you might notice a few jumps and things. But you know. So I'm using it's a watercolor brush, or at least that's what it was marketed as. But I think it's just an alcohol or water-based marker. I got them recently. They were on sale from Amazon for $14, so I'm like, I'm gonna give these a try. They're pretty nice. The tip is very, very long and thin, and it's really hard to control, so I snipped the tips off, so it's still a very thin tip, but it's a lot easier to see what's being touched by it. Because before it was like a really long one strand of hair that was applying ink all over the place, and it gave me a lot of difficulties. Now, these characters are, to my interpretation of how I envision them from how they're described. My DM, who is my husband, gave me their character sheets because this was a surprise for them. So I could get the basic knowledge of what equipment they had and what their hair color and eye color and heights were. And the funny thing is, all of them are, well, the lady there is 5'9", and the big one in the back with the sword is 6'5", maybe? And so they're all like towering, and my character's 4'5", because he's only 10. But it was kind of hard trying to get all these really tall characters into this picture. So I crouched down the bird a little bit so he would kind of fit in. This character right here is our Cleric, and I want to make a video about my D&D campaign and the characters and how it all started. So I'm not going to get too much into the individual characters here, just more of like why I chose what I chose and doing what I'm doing. I wasn't sure what to add or what they would use, because a lot of the characters use very particular weapons all the time, so I tried to use those. Like my character uses fire all the gosh darn time because he is a fire elemental. But being that my character has no strength, I have these claws of the ice bear, I think it's what it's called. We were playing Pathfinder, by the way. And it's helps my character climb, since I can't climb for shit. And this foot is my favorite foot out of the whole damn picture. It's my favorite part of this whole picture is that one leg foot thing. I don't know why, I just really like the way it came out. But yeah, so I tried to add like particular items and weapons that they use most often. And he doesn't use his mace too often, but I figured I'd add it there because he has in the past. Normally it's I don't really know what he uses. I'm trying to remember our last battle. I think he just mostly cast magic. But everyone had some sort of weapon and a stance they were giving, so I gave him a short staff. And here I'm trying to apply some yellow to give it like that fiery glow. It's like, I don't know. I should have like deepened the shadows in that area. But I didn't really want to because I didn't know where my light source was coming. It was radiating from the sides in, and then a little bit of glow from that fire. So my shadows are all over the place, forgive me. That was way too wet. I always try to draft my brush a little bit at some points, and it's wetter than I think it is, and I'm just like, jeez. This was wetter than I had anticipated, but for that mace it ended up looking pretty good. It gave that water stain that I talked about last time that I like. I went with those two first because they have the most normal skin tones. And this is the start of another day of painting. So I remember I wanted them to dry completely before I moved on to her, who is a lizardy lady. So she got green skin and scales and all that stuff with a dinosaur pet. She's actually the only official female character in the group, even though 3 of the players are female and only 2 are male, because, I don't know, because my character's a boy and the other female player plays a non-gendered android. Yes. But I'll have to get into that and that story in another video, I think. She's also a very sassy lady. Who I think is just tired of our group's bullshit. That's her little dinosaur chicken. And her hair was kind of fun to do. I put a wet down because I wanted to try to blend 2 different colors. Because the top was a purple and towards the bottom I gave it a bit of a blue. Sort of like how I did the background of the Argama Witch picture. I wanted to blend the 2 together. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. So it has a nice little fade. Her hair was the most fun to color. And her outfit was my least favorite to color. Because it was a lot of black. Which is fun. I've drawn this character once digitally. It was a commission piece by the player, who is a Maiden's Kiss. I've talked about her before. But, yeah, this is, it's slightly redesigned, reimagined. The hair is a little different. And I wanted to give all the black some sort of coloring, so I made the skirt a little bit blue, and I think I add red to the top a bit later. Usually when I do digital, like when I did her original commission piece, I can add much more colors and mess around a bit more. I'm always afraid to experiment with watercolors, because if you mess up, you've ruined your picture. And this picture took so long to draw that I didn't want to mess it up. Oh, and here I'm trying to like make her scales show, but it came out looking a bit more like freckles. And I did it in a dark green, a yellow, and later on I think a white for reflection. And there's the yellow. It's a little hard to see. You can see it in the original a bit better. A bit better. And here, as I'm adding shading, you'll see that I constantly dip back into the dark area over there because I overfilled it with too much color. So I try to like absorb some of it to help color the rest of it. Although I still use the watercolor I have on the side, but it's just so that's not as concentrated. And he has the plainest clothes. White, black, and red. Although I guess she has all black, so I guess I can make it kind of easier. She has a sun rod and kukri. And I looked up kukri references, and then as I was drawing it, the center kind of looked a little bit like a snake, so I just kind of changed it to look like one. Since she's lizardy. And very aquatic themed too. So she wears a lot of sea jewelry, like oceany jewelry, shells and stuff. This particular picture I drew because we had just started our second chapter, if you will, of our campaign. It's one my husband came up with, but it's taken us forever to get here due to the fact that our schedules are so weird. We used to have it at my house, and now we have to have it online because someone moved away to a different state. But it still works, so it's kind of fun when we all get to hang out together for a little while. This crow man was a pain in the ass to color, but I honestly like the way his came out the best once it's finished. It's just so many little spots of color, and it might be because it's blue and I love the color blue, but it was a lot of mixing, a lot of layering of random colors. Like, I started with a layer of blue, and I think I had some others later on, like reds and and more blue. Bright, bright blue. So the characters' images that people were using for their online tokens were pictures that they found online, with the exception of me and the lizard lady, because she can draw, so hers was one she drew. So I'm trying to here use reference of what they chose, but also not directly copy somebody else's artwork. So he had a bird that had a hood over it, and it had a lot of blue, so those were what I pulled from it. Everything else I tried to change to make it look more this character, not, you know, a ripped off image. I like the way it came out. I like crows anyways, so. Yeah, so here I'm adding like a red or a burgundy into the legs and to the hands to try to make them slightly stand out, a little different than the rest of the blues and grays. And there I am just jumping around. Again, dipping into the color of the tail a little bit to spread it out. I didn't like that color. I wanted red. I wanted to emphasize. It's not that it was used, it's just supposed to be like an accent color. Almost like a warning. Like, this part will cause you to be that color. Although in our last play session he used a longbow, which I didn't even know he had. But it wasn't on his sheet, so. Oops! And this character used to be homeless. And you'll notice I put, like, a little square of tissue or toilet paper down. It's to absorb the excess, because sometimes I put too much down. But the character used to be homeless and then just, like, lived on the street, so I gave him a lot of ratty-looking clothes. That's why it's all torn and stuff. Sometimes I'm not really sure what to say. Just coloring in large areas is tedious, and this was one of the reasons I didn't like coloring in this character. Is this cloak was a pain in the butt to color in. Granted, when it was done, I liked how it came out. And overall, I like how the picture came out. If I had done it digitally, there's a few things I would have changed. Oh, and here I am using those markers again. They're pretty nice. I've never tried using my Copic markers with this. These ones are nice. At least for this. This is definitely something he just found in the trash somewhere. And this is our android character, who everyone knows is an android, but they don't know we know they're an android. I don't know. The fun thing about them is they're genderless, and they sometimes get things wrong or confused. Think of it like in Harry Potter when you had the wizards trying to blend in with the muggles. That's pretty much this character right here. It doesn't quite know what she's supposed to be doing, but does its best to try to match with what they see. And they really like to stab things. And bake things, which is why there's a cupcake on the end of their rapier. I had to include a cupcake. I don't think there's been a session where we haven't talked about cupcakes. And one session they put on a pink apron, and I've just always envisioned them in it ever since. Mostly because they're a baker who can't taste their own food. So I imagine they would always be in this pink apron. I don't know if that's actually the case, but I think it's adorable, so I kept it. It's one of the problems with not having official images and whatever. You do your best. It's a lot more dark colors. I do feel that if my character was in a darker color, you wouldn't see them as well. Being they're mostly white right up front with all those dark colors behind them, it does make that little character stand out a bit. Although the bird and the robot kind of blend together a little bit, but I try to fix that later on. I think at this point I'm on day 3 of coloring this. Because I know I did most of the first 2, the human and the little elf guy, the first day, and then I finished them up later on, and then I started on her on another day, and then another day I did the bird, and I think later on that day I worked on the robot, or the next day. See, this takes me a long time. I had somebody comment on my Instagram being like, "Oh, you're so fast at this," and I'm like, not really. This isn't something that just magically happens in an hour or the 30 minutes that the video runs for. I don't really draw that fast. I wish. Yeah, it takes me quite a while. Days. I have a little art desk set up over next to my computer desk, so I can just leave it there and draw. Actually show the desk later on, so you'll see that. My favorite part with all pictures is going over it with white and blacks. Like here I'm adding highlights to her scales to kind of stand out, and light in the hair, eyes, flames. Trying to make this look like Claws of the Ice Bear, so I tried to draw a little tiny snowflake. I don't think anyone noticed but me. But I really think the white makes it pop. And it looks good. It adds that little extra detail, makes things stand out a bit, and the same can be said with darks. I really like working with light and white and blacks. Maybe in one of my other pictures, next time I will do a black and white, because I really like working in beta and just tones and stuff. Trying to give him some highlighted on his wings, make it shine. And here I'm adding some like scratches and scuffs on his outfit, because it's dirty. Got it from the trash, I think. I don't know. That's how I imagined it. Give it a little scuffing. And here I'm outlining every character in white, and I skipped most of that part because that is just tedium. So you can kind of see it a little bit. It's just to make them stand out a bit without separating them too much from each other, because they're still supposed to be the group, but I needed something so they would stand out from one another. I do go back later on around the bird because you can see how his outline's a little faded. And this character, my husband, who was my DM, he pulled the image off of the internet, and it was based off of a Hearthstone card. So I tried to switch it up a little bit, and I was like, I'm just gonna draw him my way. Actually, the first thing I said was, I don't want to draw that. But I did anyways. I changed him up. I think I changed his hair color a little bit and his skin color. Gave him a stogie. But I think that what he liked is the fact that he was a rat folk. And he had that hat and that little vest. So I gave him that. And a red eye because lab rat. And yellow teeth because rat. I don't know. I wanted him to have yellow teeth, but I also gave him gold teeth later on, which is a little harder to see because of the yellow in his teeth. But I didn't think you'd have sparkly white teeth. He's the leader of our thieves guild, if you will. We're not thieves. Well, we weren't thieves, but that's... He's trying to recruit us. So we count him as like bad guy, and he seems shady AF, you know? So I wanted him to look kind of sinister and overpowering, and just like he's a big influence in the city, even though he's just a tiny little rat folk who is shorter than my character. But his presence is big and menacing. And here I'm painting a lot of this upside down because I don't want my hand to rub across the image itself. Although, I mean, if I needed to, I'd just lay down tissue and whatever, but give him some yellow nails, gold. Here my camera cut out. I had to get rid of some of the footage off of my camera because I was filling it up too much. So we missed part of the coloring up top and here, but I'm just filling in the symbol, which is that Ratman symbol for his gang. And this part here, I had to... My husband, again, found it on the internet. And I had to adjust it on the computer, and then I printed it out and kind of traced it because, you know, I wasn't drawing that complicated design. I wasn't having it. But since I made that design red, I wanted to make his background red. Kind of menacing-ishly. And I was trying not to mark up my table too much. I have a roll of toilet paper that just sits there to help me with all this. And tissues, but the tissues don't work so well. Mostly because they're the lotion tissues. They don't absorb as well as you'd think. But this toilet paper does. Yay, toilet paper. Just some menacing shadow characters. We only met one. And we're not really supposed to meet more, but I like the idea of having all these players that we don't know who they really are, what their motives really are, kind of chilling in the background. Know you've been a good friend, and that's in the thick and thin, and I know it's never gonna end. 'Cause you've been a good friend. Give him some nice red eyes. And I regretted doing this in purple, and I still kind of do. His smoke from his cigar. I don't know, like I wanted it a blue, but I figured with the red background, it should be a purple, and then I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know. So, that kind of messed up a little bit there. And I jumped back down to here where I'm adding shadow under the character's feet. Again, if I had done this digitally, I probably would have made that try to glow a little bit, but then I'd have to readjust all the shadows, which would be much easier to do on digital than here, since I've already colored in their shadows and such. So one of the things I do like about digital is I can go back and fix things much easierly, whereas when you're doing it in paint, you kind of have to plan ahead a bit more. Their layout, their particular layout, I drew 4 different suggestive layouts on another piece of paper, scrap paper, trying to figure out how I was going to get all of them in there and such. Yeah, I was going over the outlines again. Giving him some shine and some sparkles, outlining his smoke. And a really fine brush to do some shimmer, because I figured if a guy who runs a thieves guild, he would have all this that's shiny and gold, you know? Giving an outline to them. They had, since I gave the heroes, if you will, or us, the white bold outline, I wanted to give them the black bold outline to contrast it. He colored in his scar, but not too much. Added a pattern to his vest because I felt it was a little plain. And stripes, because, yeah. And then I used this brown pen, which I don't know, honestly, where I got this brown pen, but for some reason it's been on my desk and I've been using it. But it's to strengthen some of the lines without making it completely black. Because sometimes you lose the depth, and here I am adding a couple little shiny stars on things. Because things need to shimmer, damn it. And I was almost going to color this in with ink, and I kind of regret not doing it with an ink. And instead I used the watercolor. Because I was like, I did everything else in watercolor, and the ink might be too bold. It dried weird in layers, so you had like darker areas. I needed to go back over it a few times, and I just touched that up slightly later on. Here I'm adding some like blues and purples to kind of give a bit more shadow. Signing my work, dating it, adding in finer details. Giving him more shadow because more menacing. And that's pretty much it. This was quite a long process, but if you enjoyed this video and you want to help me beat the algorithm, then please subscribe, like, comment, share, and all that other good shit. And look at me clean up my workstation, and I will see you next time.